Well, hello everyone. Hey, we are going live. We are going to be interpreting some dreams today. We were not able to do this last week. I apologize. Some of you saw our post that we put out on social media. We put it out on Instagram and on Facebook, just letting people know. Uh, I find it a little bit funny. I grew up in Ohio and I spent some time living up in New England, and we had some cold weather and some possible freezing rain, and so a lot of things were not happening. So we had the offices closed that day, and I just spent a week up in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And the day that I arrived there, I think it was like -7, -9, something like that on that first day. I'm thinking, yeah, this is a concern when in Texas you stop things because it's getting a little bit cold, but in a place like this, it's cold all the time. But there is a big difference in Texas. We don't have the same ways of being able to handle if there would have been freezing rain and ice. We don't have the same ability to clear up the roads in the same way that they do in places where it happens a lot more often and it's a little bit easier. So I was up in, somebody asked where in Minnesota. I was up in Burnsville, which is the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. There's a ministry up there called Dare to Believe. My friend Christy Grainer runs that. She is one of our streams teachers. She's got a team that she is training up that teach the streams courses, but also help her in the school. And I was there as one of the guest speakers for their ministry school. We had a really good time. We were talking about prophetic reformation, and I actually had a plan as to what I was going to teach, but once I started talking, that plan just completely disappeared. I ended up just talking about 5 hour seminar between Friday night and Saturday morning, and never opened up my iPad once to look at notes. But it was really, really helpful for the people that were there. At least that was the feedback that we got. Talked a lot about love and how love is the discerning factor. That's a good way of saying it. The discerning factor for spiritual gifts, for ministries, and how to look at our own life, at the ministry that we're doing, but also at the ministries that we receive from, and make sure that love is the highlight to be able to recognize that it actually is the Lord. And we're spending this year here at Streams really focusing on prophetic reformation. That's been a theme from the very beginning. Actually, when John Paul started Streams Ministries in 1995, he organized Streams Ministries as prophetic reformation ministries. That was originally what he called it. And then a couple years later, 1996 or 97, actually, I forget the exact date. I think it was in 96. He changed the name to Streams Ministries based off of Psalm 46:4. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, because we're one of the streams that's part of the river of God's movement around the world. And our goal is to bring blessing to the church and to believers, and to draw people into relationship with Jesus, bring them into the city of God so that they can experience the fullness of what God has for them. So just a little bit where this understanding of prophetic reformation is really, really key. So we had a great time going up there, being able to minister, see God move in some beautiful ways. And we're going to be pressing into that. If you've been following us on socials, you probably saw we've been putting out a video recently. We'll be putting out some more information about our prophetic reformation conferences. We're having it right here at Streams Ministries here in Louisville. So if you haven't seen that already, check it out. We're going to be really pressing in April. We're doing one, prophetic reformation source. Me and my friend Daniel are going to be speaking, and Josh Young is going to be coming and joining our worship team with Manda Lamson and the rest of the team here to lead worship. Some of you, if you've been around Streams for a while, you remember Josh. an amazing worship leader and a good friend. I am really excited to get to hang out with him. We have over the years done so many different ministry times. Usually when John Paul was speaking and I was traveling along and Josh was the worship leader, but we've seen some really wonderful moves of God, and I cannot wait to see what happens when we come together. So that's going to be in April, and then we're going to do another one in May that we're calling Prophetic Reformation Reset, and it'll be me and Ken Fish. So would love to have you guys join us if you can get here. Even if you can't get here, you can join us online. We do have virtual registrations that are available for those. So check out our website, streamsministries.com, and see if those dates are available for you, if you're able to join us or even able to watch from home. Maybe you get a few friends together and you watch it together and then pray for one another and prophesy over each other and see what the Lord wants to do. But let's jump into some dream interpretation and see where we're going to go today. So I will start out with the latest dream I've got here from Christy. Lately, I had a dream on Bengal tigers on a wire. A lady wanted to coax them down. I said, please don't. They're unpredictable. She said she spoke their language. She went up on the wire and was devoured. Only her shoulder was left. So, the idea of a Bengal tiger, it's the largest of the cats. It's a very large animal. A lot of times tigers, maybe there's something about the colors. They tend to be orange and black, and orange will often talk about something that's stubborn or something that perseveres. It's just persistent. It doesn't quit. To the negative, that's stubbornness, and black can represent something that's coming out of the soul. So sometimes tigers will represent that. This actually feels more like a spiritual reality, like maybe a stronghold or something along that lines. You still have that persistent, you still have that soulish issue. In this particular dream, that seems to be what it's talking about. But people seeing something that is dangerous and is not tame, and thinking that because they understand it, because they speak its language, that they're going to be safe from the danger that is inherent in what it is, and realizing and watching when that does not work out. So for you specifically, as you had this dream, you're recognizing that there's some big issues and some people that you are around. And, it doesn't say who that lady is. So I don't know if this is somebody that you're in a relationship with or just somebody that you observe, somebody that you're around. Thinks that they're going to be able to be safe when they deal with this issue, that it's not going to harm them, even though it is a harmful issue and you recognize that it's harmful. But the reality is it is harmful and it is affecting them. It is affecting those people. Now, the thing about the dream, you don't get harmed and you're not actually threatened. You don't go up on the wire and the tiger doesn't come down off of the wire. So this is more about something that you're going to see. You're going to observe this happening. It's not saying that it's going to happen to you. But when you recognize that dynamic, especially when people try to say, you have the discernment to know, this is harmful, this isn't good. But people are saying, yeah, but it's going to be okay because I understand it. Like I can deal with this, and that it's not actually true. So, maybe that'll give you a little bit more strength to encourage them not to do that. But in the dream, they do it anyways, whatever you do. But it's letting you know to trust your discernment and not to back down from what you recognize. So I think this is an encouragement dream for you, that as this happens, that you don't get caught up in believing the way that people are seeing this. Okay, let's see. We've got another one here. Whitney, this is your dream. In a dream, I sat with my pastor and mom at a table. Pastor secretly asked me to complete an assignment to help. He wanted me to help clean his house and his family's mess. He asked if I needed mom. Okay. just thinking through this really quickly before I jump out there with an interpretation, there's a few things that are here. I'm trying to decide if the idea of a secret invitation. Well, let's back up a little bit. Mom, is mom symbolic or is mom literal? And in this dream, um, I wonder, and you would know this as the dreamer, if your mom, if you know of your mom as an intercessor, somebody that would have spiritual wisdom, is this talking about your natural mom? And if so, it would be that kind of thing, that there would be some spiritual wisdom, there would be some spiritual maturity, some intercessory giftings, some leadership giftings that would be there to be able to, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, be able to discern and look into and deal with dynamics that are there. Or is this a spiritual mom, somebody that you have received from, somebody that has trained you and equipped you in the things of the spirit? But either way, the dream is saying that there's going to be invitations from people in leadership to that you're going to be given invitations to help them, to minister to them with some of their secret issues, some of their family issues, some of their things that are going on, dynamics that are happening in their family, and that you may need some support from those that you have learned from and grown from. Now, it doesn't say in the dream whether you do need that or don't need that. Seems to be like that's just left as a question mark. So there's not an answer in the dream. It would be great if there was an answer in a dream, because then we could say, well, when this happens, this is how you're going to respond to it. But instead, it's just letting you know what's going to happen. So as that happens, just realize there is an invitation that's there, and really listen to the Lord as to how to handle that dynamic. Um, yeah, and I will leave that one alone. It's fun when you're interpreting dreams. Sometimes you have information and maybe wisdom or experience that is outside of the dream interpretation that you want to add to, and it's not necessarily um like there are things that are just the ways of the Lord. Like one of the ways of the Lord is, if a dream points out a sin in someone's life, the way of the Lord would say to repent. And so you should, in the dream interpretation, point out, hey, this is saying that this is sin, and it's being pointed out. That's an invitation for you to repent. But sometimes it's just counsel that you might have. But if you don't have the relationship with that person to be able to give that counsel, if you are not in that kind of a place, it's often better to withhold that counsel and just keep it to the dream interpretation. Now, it depends on the dynamic. And sometimes you feel like you're supposed to. And so then when you feel like you're supposed to, you would ask permission. This is what the dream means. I would also like to share something with you. Is it okay if I do that? I think I might have some wisdom that can help you with this situation. And sometimes with the dream interpretation, if the Lord has landed on it and the person is really witness to the fact that it was the Lord, they will often say, yeah, what else do you have? But there are times when it's not actually intended, and you can recognize by the favor that is released with the person. You never want to go beyond the favor that you have. You want to be careful, because if you go beyond the favor that you have and you press into something that you weren't supposed to step into, you can end up ruining that dynamic. And so the interaction ends up being left like a bad taste in someone's mouth. And even the good things that that you have released in that interaction before you went beyond favor, they end up getting withdrawn. It's like something gets subtracted from them and they don't have the same impact. So learning to recognize where you have favor and where you don't have favor, and learning to recognize when you have dream interpretation and then you have advice, or you have counsel, or even revelation, wisdom that is beyond, or knowledge that's beyond what was in the dream. Separating those things out and being careful not to go beyond the favor that you have. So that is that's a really important principle for us to get, because when that gets missed, it can end up getting very messy. And those messes are not fun to clean up. I can tell you that from experience, but also from having helped many people walking through this dynamic and not realizing that they went beyond where they should have. So let's look at another dream. This dream is from Crystal. Crystal said, I was trapped in a trafficking home. I was headed to a parked van to escape, and I noticed a group of kids and they needed to be saved. One had fallen into some ice. I saved him when he thought he was an older man. Okay, so this is a calling dream. It's not a very specific situation like you're going to be trapped in a trafficking home. This is more about a general thing that's going on, that it's a calling that's on your life. And part of that we know because of the metaphorical piece that's clearly metaphorical when a child is suddenly an older man instantly in the dream. So that's clear. This is not a literal thing. So it's not saying that this is going to happen in this way, but this principle is going to happen. And because it's metaphorical, there's most likely a metaphorical piece. So you're supposed to be involved in helping people that are trapped in trafficking. And not just from a distance, like I'm going to give to a ministry, but actually getting involved in their lives. Now, that doesn't mean that you're actually going to be going into those homes necessarily, but maybe you will be visiting ministries where people that are coming out of trafficking are at. Maybe you're going to be interceding. You're going to be involved in some way. It could be spiritually, but it's probably more than just, oh, I think this is nice, let me give a little donation to this ministry because that's what they're doing. There's a calling for you to be involved. And that involvement is going to be very impactful in people's lives. It's going to help them and save them from difficult circumstances. When someone gets fallen into some ice, that's a very dangerous thing. If they're not helped, there's a good possibility they're not going to live through it. So there's metaphoric life and death issues that you're going to be helping people with. And as you help these people, you're going to recognize the way that what they've gone through has matured them, has put years on them. And I'm not quite sure if that was a negative thing or if that was not a negative thing. Is that a positive maturity that's there, or was that like a negative, like it caused people to grow up too quickly? It didn't feel negative in the dream. So I don't want to go that way in the dream interpretation because it doesn't quite fit the dream itself. It seems to be more recognizing that dynamic of people maturing through the things that they go through, in you being able to recognize the maturity, bringing people through their rescue and through that thawing. Like when the cold heart, because of the things that they've gone through, gets thawed, gets healed, that they come into a maturity, they come into a fullness that they didn't have before. So bless you as you find ways, and perhaps you're already involved in something like that, and this is just confirmation to you. But if not, may the Lord give you the wisdom to recognize how you're going to be stepping into this and what that would look like, the right ways and the wrong ways of doing that. All right, Melissa, you wrote, I was in a one-story office building with family and friends. I realized I was the owner. They were my employees. I also owned the restaurant next door. I had many customers. I was worried if I could lead. Okay, this is an awesome dream. And just from the dream itself, I can tell that part of you may not initially like the interpretation, but after it's all said and done, I think you're going to be very pleased, because this is something that the Lord is showing you, that you've pressed into relationships, you put yourself in places where you have helped people, and your helping people is naturally leading you into a place where you are a leader. And you have a little bit of insecurity about whether or not you're going to be able to be a leader. But it's not about that. It's about you being in relationship and loving the people that you're with, because that naturally turns into a leadership role. And it's going to multiply beyond your expectation, and you're going to be able to help a lot more people than what you think you're going to be able to help. That is a really, really cool dream, Melissa. God bless you. Okay, Isabel. Isabel's question: what does it mean when you dream with people of different race, like African, Asian, Indians? Sometimes I'm dating an Asian man. Other times I marry an African king. Other times I help an Indian family. So people that are from other places, they will often represent that people group. So you have this story that is in the book of Acts where Paul and his missionary team, they're trying to go into one place and the Spirit doesn't let them go in. Another place, the Spirit doesn't let them go in. They're trying to figure out, where are we supposed to go? We know we're on a missionary journey, but God's not letting us go to any of the places we thought we were going to go. And so finally, as they're sleeping one night, Paul has a vision, a night dream of a man from Mesopotamia that comes and says, "Come over here and help us." And so they decide that that's where the Spirit is leading them. Oftentimes, when you see people from another race, from another culture, it's saying that there's some type of calling to that culture. And then what's going on with that culture? So dating would talk about developing an affection for, getting to know and understand Asian culture. Maybe there's an intercessory. And actually, I'm pretty sure that you are an intercessor just from this dream, but just also I have that sense that you are an intercessor. Marrying an African king. That there's something for you to make a commitment to some type of a leader in Africa. That doesn't mean going to Africa necessarily, but maybe there's a particular leader that you're going to get drawn to, that you're going to intercede for, that you're going to have an assignment for a period of time. There's going to be a level of commitment there. Helping an Indian family would be very similar. So using the gift of helps and helping them. All of these could possibly be fulfilled through intercession. But the question is, as you go about your life and you look at the opportunities that are given to you, how does it actually play out? You'll start to recognize these interactions, and maybe these people end up coming to you. But it's about that idea of, one, the developing of relationship, coming to an understanding and an appreciation and affection for, making a commitment to, and then helping that is connected. And it's not just one person. So this isn't saying that you're going to be moving to one particular nation and that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life. This is saying that you're going to be interacting through whatever it is you do as ministry, whether that is, and it feels like there's some intercessor, whether it's other things as well, there's some intercessory related to that, through your prayers, or actually going to places, or maybe it's even through virtual, because it's amazing how many nations. I bet if we put out just an ask, like how many nations are on here, usually we have 5, 7, sometimes we've had 10 or a dozen different nations on the call while we're doing it, much less the recordings that go afterwards and people begin to watch them. It's really easy to reach the nations with the technology that we have today. So there's lots of ways that you could be fulfilling that. But it's talking about some kind of a call to help them, and then the specific dream lets you know what that call is. Linda, how are you doing, Linda? Glad to have you on again. Let's see. You said, please treasure chest. I was standing in a hall with two others. One was my sister. One face was blurred. There's a box in the corner. I took the lid off, and Jules ran over and ran like a river. What a great dream. Like that is too much fun. So one, Jules, talk about something that's precious, something that's valuable, something that has worth. That this is something that's important, that's good. And just recognizing that it's there. So you're in a hall. So hall usually talks about some type of transition because well, it depends on the kind of hall. Is a hallway or like an auditorium hall? An auditorium hall would be different. If it's a hallway, that's transition, but an auditorium hall would just be a place that could handle many people. Maybe it's a meeting room. So that could be more talking about church or some type of a gathering. But you're not seeing a lot of people there. So it's not really about the people as much as it is the setting. So the setting is your sister. Now, I'm not sure if this is your natural sister or if this is spiritual sister. I know in the dream, the way that you said it, that you saw your natural sister, but does she represent a spiritual sister? But then you got the face that's blurred. That is an angelic presence. So this is the congregation that we are a part of, the family that is in heaven and on earth, the Hebrews 12 family, the great cloud of witnesses that includes the angelic hosts, all the saints that have gone before us, and all the saints that are living now and will live in the future. That it's in the context of your spiritual life, and you are going to recognize something that the Lord has set aside for you to discover that is precious. And when you open it up, when you recognize it and release it, it's not just that you're going to receive something, but your discovery is going to lead to a release that's going to flow like a river. It's going to affect more than just you. It's not just oh, here's a nice jewel, but it's a continual, it has a source to it that is flowing, that is happening. So the treasures of heaven, you're going to discover, and you're going to see them released into the environment that you're in. Now, you notice those of you that you're here because you want to learn a little bit about dream interpretation. I talked a lot about what it might mean and why this means this and why this means this. But then at the end, I gave the interpretation. Most often, when you're working with people, let's say you're out on the streets and you're interpreting dreams for somebody, or you're at a restaurant or an outreach of some kind, or you're at church, you're probably not going to talk through what all the different elements mean and why they mean what they mean the way that I do. I'm doing this very specifically because my goal here is not just to interpret dreams, but to equip you to interpret dreams. Because I know we've already got more dreams on here than I would be able to interpret if I was just to have no more comments and I was interpreting for the next couple hours. Like there's been a number of these on here. So I'm not going to be able to get to all the dreams, but I can give you clues. I can give you tools that are going to help you so that the dreams that don't get interpreted, that you start to find clues that help to unlock it. And in the release, because it's not just about the skill and getting the knowledge, it's actually that there's an impartation that happens. There's a spiritual flow that happens when revelation is going on, that it actually releases something into the atmosphere. It actually opens something up. And so there's an impartation that comes along just by listening in as someone is interpreting dreams or prophesying or any other kind of movement of the Holy Spirit, because the things of the kingdom are more caught than taught. So you're probably, when you interpret a dream, you're just going to give that that summary, that quick piece. You're going to discover the treasures of heaven and you're going to see them released into the earth. Like that's really what that dream meant, and that's the important piece. Now all the other bits, it gives a little bit more meaning and a little bit more nuance, but you don't have to go into all of those details to be able to understand the dream. So this whole understanding of the flow and being able to learn and be able to grow is really important, because dream interpretation is like learning a language. I don't know if you've ever tried to learn a different language. I've dabbled. I've never actually really learned. When I was in high school, I learned a little bit of Spanish, and then I ended up at a bank where we had a number of Spanish-speaking customers. So I learned a little bit. I'm not fluent. I can't have a conversation, but I can understand a few things. But I don't really know how to speak Spanish. But I know people that do ministry in Spanish. And a friend of mine that was telling me they spent years, they'd gone through seminary, excuse me. And one of the things they did was they took language courses. So they were learning in Spanish because they were in New York City and they knew that they were going to minister bilingually, and the people that they were called to, that there was a number of Spanish speaking people. And so they needed to know the language. And so they went through the courses, multiple years, not only high school level, but in college level courses on the language. But even after their years of training, they were not at a place where they were able to communicate as well as they needed to make it natural and to be able to engage. And so they went down to South America and did a language immersion program where they take you to a place where you live with somebody, live with a family for a couple months, 2 to 3 months. Sometimes you live in your own apartment, but you're close by and you have someone that is a family that knows what's going on for the purpose of helping you. And in that place, nobody speaks English. So there will be somebody that could speak English, but they've already made the commitment not to speak the normal language. They only speak in the language that you're learning, so that you're completely immersed, and you have to constantly, you get to have conversations, you get to struggle through, figure out how to say it. You go to the shop to get something, that person's not going to understand you when you speak in your language. You're going to have to speak in that other language, and it really immerses you in that language, and it launches what could take years. Otherwise, it happens in a couple months because you've been immersed in that language. That is one of the things that we're going to be doing with our new Streams Academy ministry school that we're starting in September. Now, we've been doing Streams Academy as an online course, and we've had that for a few years, but we're actually opening up a diploma version of that where we're going to be doing it in person so that people can come and learn prophetic language, but also dream interpretation. We've gotten permission from the Department of Education here in the state of Texas to offer Associate of Science diplomas. So we're going to have an Associate of Science in Prophetic and Revelatory Studies, or an Associate of Science in Biblical Dream Interpretation. And this 2-year program is going to immerse you in the language of the Spirit and help you to really grow. If you're interested in really going deeper in dream interpretation, and I know we get to dabble with it a little bit on these lives, and some of you have taken the online classes that we have, the Understanding Dreams and Visions course, and there's things that are there and they're helpful. Maybe some of you are in dream communities. That's even better. But if you want to go into a language immersion program, this is an opportunity for you really to go deep. Get with some like-minded people that are all going after the things of spirit, developing with a heart for healthy prophetic, with an understanding that character is more important than gifting, that this is a function that we have to serve, that we can grow. Wherever we're at, there's more that we can get to. And be able to have people that understand dream interpretation. If you're wanting to grow in dream interpretation, be able to get feedback to know where you need to grow and how you can grow, and really develop that. This is going to be a great opportunity. So if you are interested in that, I want you to take a look. We've got streamstraining.com. This will just take you to our Streams Ministries website, to the page that talks about Academy. You can always just go to streamsministries.com and there will be a link right there for Academy. We tried to make it very easy to find. And take a look. We are accepting applications for the 2025, starting in September of 2025. And if you want to come be a part of that, take a look, get some information, start praying about it. We'd love to have you. And if you're not quite sure, come to one of our conferences. We have one in April. We have one in May, the Prophetic Reformation conferences I mentioned at the beginning. And on the Sunday afternoon during those conferences, we're going to have a taster, a Streams Academy taster, where you can come in and you can kind of meet some of the people that have gone through the training before, some of them that were able to be here in person when we were doing it in person, get to interact with that, get a little bit of feel of it. I'm going to share a little bit of vision, and we're going to do some prophetic exercises. We're going to release some impartation, just see what the Lord wants to do. And it'll be a great opportunity for you to be able to discover if this is going to be something for you. So before we finish up, let me really quick interpret one more dream, and then we're going to end with this dream. So this is from CL. I drove with a Caucasian coworker and Malaysian friends to a campsite. I felt awkward when worship music played in my car. A pastor mentioned leave to work at church leader house who want to speak with me about my call. Okay, I'm not quite sure if I understand all the language here, but I think I get a good feel for what's going on. So you're with a Caucasian coworker, but then some of your Malaysian friends. Going to a campsite. So a campsite be something temporary. It's different. You're not going to a workplace. This is more leisure. This is more relaxing. I'm trying to think of possibilities. I guess I'm trying to think of applications when the interpretation is just the you're heading to something temporary. But in your car there's worship music. So basically, as you've been going about your life and you've been interacting relationally with people, you have not been able to hide the atmosphere of worship. And sometimes it's made you feel awkward when God showed up in moments when you didn't expect it. And this is actually a part of your call, that other people have noticed that you have a call, and there is a call of the Lord on you. Now, this does not say what that call is, but just from the context of this, it seems that it is related to some form of evangelism, some form of releasing the kingdom in the workplace and among people that don't know him yet. And God is going to use you in that way. So don't be, I felt awkward when the worship music began to play. Don't feel awkward when the fragrance of heaven, the atmosphere of heaven begins to show up. It's who you are, and it's what you're called to do. And as you get more and more comfortable with this, now this is not in the dream, this is outside of it. As you get more and more comfortable with it, you're going to see more and more fruit come from it. And there's clearly from the dream, there is something that God wants to do with you to release his presence outside of normal church, quote unquote, meetings. So the Lord bless you. And each of you that are watching this, may the Lord be with you. May he continue to speak to you. May he open up your eyes to see and your ears to hear and your heart to understand everything that he's saying to you. May there be an increase of dreams and visions in your life. I bless you in Jesus' name. Have a great day, and we will see you the next time we go live. I think it's here in a week. Sherry's going to be back doing our live at 5 prayer. So next Wednesday, that will be going back. And then in a couple weeks, I'll be back here on the third weekend of the next month so that we can do some more dream interpretation. Until then, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss next time that we go live. If you hit that notification bell, you'll be told every time we put out some new material and when we're going live again. So you can join us again. Until then, take care. Bye.